If your curiosity gets the best of you, you're a goner. Curiosity, they say, killed the cat. But in the case of Hollow Manor, it did much worse. It ensnared the souls of the curious, trapping them in a web of eternal torment. The manor, with its decaying walls and eerie silence, was a siren call to those who sought the thrill of the unknown. But those who entered rarely left unscathed. Just ask Sarah and Daniel. They were young, adventurous, and full of life. They had heard the stories, the whispers of the haunted manor deep in the forest. But they were skeptics, dismissing the tales as mere folklore. They believed that the stories were just that, stories meant to scare children and keep them away from the dangers of the forest. Little did they know, the real danger lay within the walls of Hollow Manor. Deep in the heart of a forgotten forest stood Hollow Manor, a place shrouded in mystery and fear. The forest itself was dense and foreboding, with trees that seemed to whisper secrets to those who dared to listen. The path to the manor was overgrown and barely visible, as if nature itself was trying to hide the dark secret that lay within. The manor loomed in the distance, its silhouette a dark shadow against the moonlit sky. A decaying mansion untouched for over a century. Its once grand facade was now a crumbling ruin, with ivy and moss creeping up its walls. The windows, once clear and bright, were now shattered and covered in grime. The front door, heavy and imposing, hung slightly ajar, as if inviting the unwary to step inside. The air around the manor was thick with the scent of decay and the promise of danger. Locals whispered it was cursed. They spoke of strange occurrences, of people who entered the manor and were never seen again. They told tales of ghostly apparitions, of screams that echoed through the night, and of a malevolent presence that seemed to watch from the shadows. The manor was a place of fear and superstition, a place where the line between the living and the dead was blurred. Spirits that never found peace. The souls of those who had perished within its walls were said to be trapped, unable to move on to the afterlife. They wandered the halls, their mournful cries a testament to their eternal suffering. Some were victims of the manor's dark history, while others were drawn to it by their own curiosity, only to become part of its tragic legacy. One stormy night, Sarah and Daniel, dismissing the tales as superstition, dared to explore its haunted halls. They were armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, ready to debunk the myths and prove that there was nothing to fear. The storm raged around them as they approached the manor, the wind howling through the trees and the rain lashing against their faces. But their determination was unwavering, and they pushed forward, eager to uncover the truth. As they stepped inside, the air grew colder, thick with an unnatural chill. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees, and a sense of foreboding settled over them. The interior of the manor was dark and oppressive, with shadows that seemed to move and shift in the corners of their vision. The walls were lined with old, faded wallpaper, and the floorboards creaked under their weight. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching their every move. The door creaked shut behind them with a loud bang, echoing through the empty halls. The sound reverberated through the manor, sending a shiver down their spines. They turned to see the door firmly closed, as if sealing them inside. The realization that they were now trapped in the manor began to sink in, but they pushed the fear aside and pressed on, determined to uncover the secrets of Hollow Manor. Sarah shivered, feeling a presence watching. It was an unsettling sensation, as if unseen eyes were following their every move. She glanced around nervously but saw nothing out of the ordinary. Daniel tried to reassure her, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. The manor seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the air was thick with tension. Their flashlights flickered, as if something was draining the energy around them. The beams of light wavered and dimmed, casting eerie shadows on the walls. It was as if the manor itself was trying to plunge them into darkness, to disorient and confuse them. They pressed on, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls, the flickering light their only guide. In the grand living room, Sarah wiped a dusty mirror clean and froze. The room was filled with old decaying furniture, and the air was thick with dust. The mirror, once a grand centerpiece, was now covered in grime and cobwebs. As she wiped away the dust, her reflection slowly came into view. But it wasn't just her reflection that she saw. Her reflection stared back, but behind her, a shadowy figure appeared. An old woman with hollow eyes. The figure was faint, almost translucent, but there was no mistaking the malevolent gaze. Sarah's heart raced as she turned to look behind her, but there was nothing there. The figure had vanished, leaving only the lingering sense of dread. Daniel laughed off her fear, but even he felt uneasy. He tried to make light of the situation, joking about the tricks that old houses could play on the mind. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The manor seemed to be playing with them, testing their resolve and feeding off their fear. As they climbed the creaky stairs, whispers grew louder, more desperate. The sound seemed to come from all around them, echoing through the halls and filling their ears. The whispers were unintelligible, but there was a sense of urgency and desperation in the voices. It was as if the spirits of the manor were trying to warn them, to drive them away before it was too late. "Get out!" the voice hissed. It was a chilling command, filled with malice and intent. The words seemed to cut through the air, sending a shiver down their spines. They paused, their hearts pounding in their chests, but they pressed on, driven by a mix of curiosity and fear. The floor cracked, and Sarah fell into a hidden basement room, walls covered in eerie, childlike drawings. The floorboards gave way beneath her, and she tumbled into the darkness below. The room was small and cramped, with walls covered in strange, unsettling drawings. The images were crude and childlike, but there was something deeply disturbing about them. They depicted scenes of torment and suffering, of figures trapped in a never-ending nightmare. A tattered journal spoke of a witch who cursed anyone entering her domain. The journal was old and worn, its pages yellowed with age. The writing was barely legible, but the message was clear. The witch had been wronged, and in her anger she had cursed the manor and all who entered it. The curse was a powerful one, binding the souls of the curious and the unwary to the manor for all eternity. Daniel tried to pull her up, but a cold, withered hand pulled him into the darkness. The hand was skeletal and cold, its grip like iron. It dragged him into the shadows, and he disappeared from sight. Sarah screamed, her voice echoing through the halls, but there was no response. She was alone, trapped in the darkness with the malevolent spirits of Hollow Manor. Sarah's scream echoed through the hollow halls. It was a cry of pure terror, filled with the realization that she was now at the mercy of the manor's dark forces. The sound reverberated through the empty halls, but there was no one to hear it. She was alone, trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. The door creaked open, inviting the next soul inside. The manor was never satisfied, always hungry for more. It lured the curious and the brave, trapping them within its walls and feeding off their fear. The door stood open, a dark, inviting entrance to a world of terror and despair. Hollow Manor remained silent, waiting for its next guests. The end. The manor was a place of eternal darkness, a place where the line between the living and the dead was blurred. It waited patiently, knowing that there would always be those who were drawn to its dark allure. And so it remained, a silent sentinel in the heart of the forest, waiting for the next soul to fall into its trap.